Good evening, Mr. Ambassador Tom Knights, our friend. A pleasure to have you here. As you can see, things in Israel are never boring, and now more than ever. Let's talk about what we just heard regarding this dramatic legislation that is being pushed forward by the current government. Now, senior U.S. officials that visited Israel and you yourself have expressed serious concerns about these reforms. And at the same time, some in Israel argued that voicing these concerns constitutes meddling with the internal affairs of a close ally. So can you elaborate both on your views of the current crisis and on this criticism?
Well, first of all, thank you, Manuel, for having me. I think this is my multiple times I've been here, and the work the INSS does is great for Israel, it's good for the Jewish people, it's good for democracy, and I'm honored to be here. Let's step back. This is a very lively democracy, okay? Exceptionally lively, given the fact that 72% of Israelis showed up for the 5th time for an election in 2 years. 72%, we can only dream of that in America. And 56% of Arab Israelis showed up as well. So the idea that democracy is not alive and well is obviously proven by what goes on Saturdays in Tel Aviv and around Israel. So it's an honor to be part of that. I have been, as President Biden has said, and as Secretary Blinken has said, as Jake Sullivan has said, the values that bring our countries together is the democracy, the strong democratic values that Israel has that's shared with the United States. And those democratic values are presented in democratic institutions that we share with the State of Israel. When last week we were defending the State of Israel at the UN, one of the things that we always hearken back at is what we have in common are these two institutions, these two countries, these values. This is what brings us together. I have said, as President Herzog has said, and as you have said, and many Israelis said, we should slow down a little bit. Just my opinion. Slow down a little bit. Maybe bring people together. Try to bring some consensus. Some Israeli official, I don't know who he is, I don't think I met him, suggested I should stay out of Israel's business. I really think that most Israelis do not want America to stay out of their business. But make no mistake, we stand by Israel, we work with Israel. This is a very, very beautiful democracy, and it's been shown every day in every way, and it will continue.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for your words. And yes, indeed, don't get away from the business here, please. Let's talk about the West Bank. What's your assessment of the escalating violence that we're witnessing day in and day out there, which is on the verge of yet another intifada, particularly as we approach Ramadan? What's your view on it?
We're worried. You know, one of the things that's interesting, y'all knows who our former national security advisor, your former national security advisor, and Libni knows, we all know, you know, what's going on the streets here in Tel Aviv is about judicial reform. But we have a very serious situation going on in the West Bank. It's not only a problem for the West Bank, it's a problem for Israel. Sadly, I have been probably to almost every Shiva call of an Israeli who has been killed by a terrorist in the 2 years that I've been here. And there's nothing, I was never prepared for this, to walk into a home of a family who just lost their soldier, their father, their mother, and hold their hands with someone I've never met before who's been killed by a terrorist. and to do that is, I think, beyond anyone's comprehension. And so I fear for Israel in the security issue. But what also is going on in the West Bank is a deterioration of hope. And hope is a big motivator for people. And it's the obligation of the Palestinian Authority and the obligation of Israel to do whatever they do to keep hope alive. And to give the opportunity for the average Palestinians to believe that there is a potential for hope, potential of a two-state solution, potential just to have a good education and opportunity and to live freely. And I think that's the obligation of Israel, because ultimately, in our humble view as Americans, again, not trying to tell Israel what to do, but our view of this is, if for Israel to stay a true democratic Jewish state, we must have a vision of a two-state solution alive. Because ultimately, that's what matters. So as much as I first and foremost worry about the security of the state of Israel, I do worry about the immediate problems that we're facing. We're also facing Ramadan, as you know, and Passover and Easter all at the same time. Again, which is concerning. I give the credit for the Israelis and the Jordanians and the Palestinians to come together this weekend to talk around some of the security issues. I think it's important. Talking is important. Getting them in the room. All knows that that's not simple to do in this environment. So I'm worried, very worried, and I think hopefully that people will think about the importance of hope and opportunity for both people here, obviously in Israel, and also in the West Bank and Gaza.
You mentioned the summit in Aqaba a few days ago. Would you please enlighten us of what really happened there? I mean, you know, we hear contradictory statements about what transpired there. Some say what happened in Aqaba stays in Aqaba, whatever that means. And likewise, there was sort of an agreement a few, 3 weeks ago, between the U.S., the Palestinian Authority, and Israel that prevented the embarrassment for us, at least, and for you as well, at the UN. But again, we don't really know what's the nature of that agreement. So, you know, if we ask here in Israel, we don't get an answer, so perhaps you can provide an answer.
Listen, first of all, 2 weeks ago, as we all know, the Palestinians had a series of fairly serious incidences in the West Bank. Given a whole variety of reasons why they occurred, much of it is Israel believed rightfully that they needed to get terrorists that were sitting in particular areas. They went in, a variety of people were captured, some were killed, some innocent people were obviously hurt as well. The Palestinians made a decision to go to the UN. A very difficult week for the United States and the world community, because it was the 1-year anniversary of the Russia-Ukraine situation. And to the credit of the Israelis and the Palestinians, not necessarily, we encouraged this, they got together and negotiated an opportunity for the Palestinians to withdraw the resolution. Let's not get carried away, folks. This is not the Camp David Accords, okay? This is not peace in the Middle East. This is small steps to try to avoid action, which is hurtful both for the United States, for Israel, for the Palestinian people, and I think we encourage that. But to be clear, this was a bilateral between Israel and the Palestinians. I don't want to over-exaggerate what got done or what didn't get done, but the point is that the Palestinians made a decision to withdraw the resolution. Obviously, they could bring it back anytime they so choose, but they took it down. As it relates to the same thing in the meeting in Jordan, the Jordanians pushed this aggressively to get people into a room and to talk. Yes, we were there. Yes, the Israelis were there. We were part and parcel. Yes, the Palestinians. We were there, part and parcel of a conversation around what we could do. Listen, we have huge problems in the West Bank as well. We have settler violence, which is causing an enormous amount of pain. Okay, an enormous amount of pain. I don't think any of us, any Israeli, would be proud to see Palestinians or Israeli settlers, you know, burning cars and smashing windows. That doesn't make any of us proud and any of us happy, okay, under any circumstances. And I think obviously that's going on at the same time, but to get those folks into a room for 24 hours and come out with a, you know, a document that said anything is progress. So I know that's not Nobel Peace Prize winning architecture, but it was helpful. And again, this is going to be a very complicated period of time we're about ready to walk into, and we got to keep things as calm as possible to keep things from going out of control, which could easily happen.
Well, you know, we're getting the two sides in Israel regarding the legislation into one room is also difficult. So, you know.
That's what I've heard.
So let's talk about Iran. You know, we don't understand really what's the present position of the U.S. administration regarding Iran's nuclear program. In principle, the JCPOA is still alive, sort of, and yet Iran is fast becoming a de facto threshold nuclear state. So what's the U.S. strategy? There is a great deal of apprehension in Israel regarding whether we can really trust the U.S. to stop Iran when time comes and it comes really very close to nuclear weapons. Can you reassure us in that respect?
Well, as my my colleague Dan Shapiro, is he here? I saw Dan earlier. Hello, Dan. So Dan knows as well as I do, this has been a vexing issue not only for the United States, obviously for Israel. It's something that we have spent an enormous amount of time with. Obviously, the Biden administration and President Biden, who was obviously the vice president of Barack Obama, we support the JCPOA. We can debate it. Plenty of people debate the good news or the bad news of JCPOA. It doesn't matter. The JCPOA was ripped up by the former administration. We are where we are today. And we can debate how we got there, but we are where we are today. And if you believe what you read in the New York Times, of course, I believe everything I read in the New York Times, that Iran is on the cusp of breaking out. Again, I only read what I read. I don't know. But ultimately, it's clear that this is a serious issue certainly for the state of Israel and for the Middle East and for the United States. And President Biden has said three things over and over and over again. Number one, we are not going to stand by and let Iran get a nuclear weapon. Number two, obviously, we do not tie Israel's hands to defend itself. And three, we have Israel's back. We have said that over and over and again. Obviously, America would always like a diplomatic resolution of this issue. Make no mistake, we'd like a diplomatic resolution. But as long as the Iranians are doing what they're doing, not only to their people in Iran, but then producing drone technology and shipping it to Russia to go against Ukraine, we can't have negotiations during those periods of time. So the reality of this is we are obviously quite focused on, as you all know quite well, Joe Biden made a commitment to both Prime Minister Bennett and Prime Minister Lapid and to Prime Minister Netanyahu, all within a year, by the way, made a commitment to all three of them that we have total transparency. Well, there's no, if there's no question, they know what we know what they know, we know what everyone's conversation. That is a commitment we made to Israel, and that is a commitment we'll keep.
You mentioned the war in Ukraine. It seems that it has reached a stalemate. So how does the U.S. envision, if at all, an end game there?
Well, first of all, I would not sure I'd characterize it as a stalemate. The United States doesn't get into this for a stalemate. The Russian, Putin, the treacherous behavior, the murderous activities, the war crimes, the things that are occurring in Ukraine, the United States has led the way with Europe and the world community to basically provide the Ukrainians the ability to defend themselves and ultimately to win what we believe are atrocities that are occurring. And make no mistake, the idea that Putin will stop at Ukraine, I think any of us who have been in this environment know quite well that's almost impossible. And given the importance of this on the world stage, of the United States stepping up and organizing and helping and putting together the world community to fight back on Russia is important for all of us. So I think this has yet to play out. This is going to be a very tough spring for the Ukrainian people. Both sides are having a very difficult time, but we are in this for the long haul. As President Biden has said, he went there 2 weeks ago. Our Secretary of the Treasury went there 2 days ago. We're in it. We're in it for the long haul. We're in it to, as they say, we're in it to win.
Lastly, Mr. Ambassador, as you can see, we have a great deal of trouble cheering up ourselves. So maybe you can do that for us. You know, do you have any reassuring message to the Israeli people?
We love Israel.
Oh, great. We love you too.
You know, listen, just to give you a little idea how my life has turned into, okay? In the last week, I've had Senator McConnell with 11 Republican leaders, Senate leaders, come here. That was Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Arriving Thursday morning was Chuck Schumer, the Senate Majority Leader, with 9 senators, all leaders of every committee in the Congress, okay? That does not include my friends from J Street, from AIPAC, and from every other organization I have met with in the last 10 days, okay? It is the relationship between the United States and this country is unbreakable. And that's the positive news today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador.